get mine. You get yours, I get mine. You get yours, I get mine. Aight, then I'm gone. You get yours, I get mine. You get yours, I get mine. You get yours, I get mine. Aight, then I'm gone. You get yours, I get mine. You get yours, I get mine. You get yours, I get mine. Aight, then I'm gone. You get yours, I get mine. You get yours, I get mine. You get yours, I get mine. Aight, then I'm gone. Movie screens, then life's the biggest production, and it's a bitch with a big appetite for seduction. All of a sudden, niggas lusting for a big introduction.
Hey y'all, this is Daniel. Welcome to Blunt Talk, baby. How we doing? This is episode 21. I know, pretty crazy. We got 21 episodes of this right now, and let's keep it going. Today is a very special episode. We're going to be talking about the subject of competitive bodybuilding, and who better to do it than my two special guests tonight. First off, let's start with Donovan Peply, and second, we got Jordan Vanderflier. How we doing, guys? What's good, guys?
Hey, what's going on, man?
We're doing good tonight. Doing good. Just relaxing here, keeping hydrated. Important key whenever we're talking about bodybuilding.
I just wanted to say quickly that this is the first time on the podcast that we have a multi-guest episode. So I like to say thank you guys for being the first time that we have on the podcast 2 people on an episode.
Awesome, man. Looking forward to it.
Definitely.
So, the first question I normally ask people on the podcast, since coronavirus and everything, how's your quarantine/pandemic time been going? Because I know it's not easy on everyone.
Well, you can go, Jordan.
Florida, we're kind of rebellious down here, I guess is the best way to say it. So, I'm kind of like central, closer to North Florida, so it hasn't been quite as bad. Down by Miami, Fort Lauderdale, they were a lot more stricter with their cases. But, overall, life for me didn't change too bad. I mean, I already work from home as it is and everything like that. So, I just coasted along and, made the best of it. Luckily, our quarantine time, our gyms didn't really shut down too long. And, most of our stuff stayed open for the majority of the time. So, it's kind of hit or miss. Like I said, further down by Fort Lauderdale, Miami, things were a lot stricter. They took a lot longer to open up. But up where I'm at, I'm a smaller town, so things are pretty quiet around here.
That's perfect then, because you didn't have to worry about the gym situation.
Yeah, exactly. I was able to manage. I think I did 1 workout at home.
Oh, wow.
Well, lucky you, because I ended up, I think, 6 weeks at home working out, something like that. It was like crazy. The first week I was okay with it. I was like, all right, they're talking about 14-day, let's do this 14-day thing. I'm like, I'll take 2 weeks off from the gym, no big deal. I'll just, keep, just do some cardio. I have a Stairmaster at my house and pull-up bars and stuff. And then it started dragging on. So our gyms were shut down here in Virginia. I started scrounging around, calling all my buddies, trying to find weights and stuff. So I ended up putting something little together, at least to maintain. And actually, I was pretty satisfied. I just did a ton of pull-ups and push-ups and got some dumbbells and stuff just to keep the blood flowing. And it was actually a nice little change of pace, I thought, for a little while. Then I got sick and tired of it after about 6 weeks, and I was ready to get back to the weight room and something real. Yeah. So, but life changed a little bit. I was working like 2 days a week at home before that. Now I'm full time at home. It's not too bad. Been managing. So
we definitely got 2 different perspectives from you guys. One person didn't get affected that much, but the other one had to transition to in-house working out.
Yeah, I was like hitting Jordan up. He'd be like posting on Instagram, like him working out at the gym. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, dude. I'm up here. I can't even hit the gym. You soft man. Yeah. You were probably getting all the hate mail. Exactly.
To start off the episode, I want to ask both of you guys, when's the first time you guys remember or can recall that you worked out or that you went to the gym and actually did one exercise or one drill that the start of everything for you guys?
Well, for me, that was way back in high school. I was an athlete in high school. I ran track, wrestled, played soccer. Not your typical bodybuilding kind of thing, but in the winter, You know, there wasn't much going on, and the one substitute teacher / like football coach was like, dude, Donovan, you should like come down and hang out at the weight room, because he was like trying to recruit me for football, and I just refused to play football. I wanted to keep playing soccer. And so that's whenever I probably started in like 9th or 10th grade. I'd go down to the weight room and mess around, you know, in high school. Then I took it a little more serious after high school whenever I signed up for the military. And that's whenever I started, you know, really hitting the weights hard, because I knew I needed, you know, got to go in the military in shape. And I went in the military in shape. Yeah. So.
Yeah, for me, it probably started around the same age. My issue was I grew up on a boat till I was about 13. So, you know, my exposure to the world was a lot different. You know, I didn't have guidance on working out and things like that. So down in Florida, we were fortunate enough, we had a dual enrollment program where I could do college classes and get high school credit at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So the swim and baseball team at the local community college, you know, they had an on-campus gym. And I was probably 13, 14 at the time, you know, got in there. And that's probably when I actually started lifting weights. I remember coming home with, it was a peanut butter jar with white powder in it. My parents were like, what is that? I'm like, it's creatine. Someone told me it's going to get me huge. They're like, some random person getting powder out of college. Are you sure about that? So yeah, my exposure, you know, that's when I, you know, started working out and realized I liked it. But, you know, just not having, you know, that environment growing up, you know, knowing a lot of people, having the magazines, having internet, things like that, you know,
Of course.
I kind of just learned as I went. And then, you know, I played around, like I'd read articles on bodybuilding.com, you know, try different things, this and that. And then, you know, tried the CrossFit. That was a horrible idea. And I'll straight up admit that just didn't work out for me. So, you know, I tried every kind of workout there was. And then, you know, it was once I was in the military, funny thing is, since I was in the military too, and then that's when I met Donovan, and, you know, I saw how he was doing things. I'm like, all right, this is the direction that's going to work for me.
I had a lot of friends in high school that actually did CrossFit, and they actually loved it, but I never like saw the appeal or like understood it that well to actually try it.
Right.
What would you say is like the main difference from CrossFit to like normal working out?
To me, you know, CrossFit's kind of like more of an endurance athlete. You know, to me, it's, you know, you're doing not necessarily as heavyweight or, you know, particularly focused on a muscle group. Whereas, you know, bodybuilding and kind of weightlifting, you're really targeting specific muscle groups, trying to develop an overall, you know, look to your body. Whereas CrossFit, you know, you're just kind of throwing some weight around. You got good cardio endurance, things like that.
So it's more like a competitive, or who can do it faster and who can do it like quick. Okay,
right.
Okay.
Exactly. And I wasn't kind of a fan of the CrossFit too, just because I was like, man, y'all are injury prone. It's a little too unorthodox for me.
No, I can definitely see that point that you make. It's like doing all that stuff really quickly can easily, one day you could slip and it could just like mess up a muscle or something.
Exactly.
I don't know too many people that did CrossFit that never ended up without an injury. I'll tell you that much. That's why I always stayed away from it. Remember, Jordan, like we were in the military and everyone's like, oh, CrossFit.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, no, you guys are going to get injured. And next thing you know, everybody's getting shoulder surgery or knee surgery because they're doing CrossFit.
Yeah, back in like 2013, you know, when we were in the military together, it seemed like CrossFit really took a big hype for a while. And that's, you know, that's when
Definitely.
we saw, you know, everyone was throwing shoulders out. I mean, shoulder injuries and low back were like, seemed to be like the number one injuries with doing all that.
I do remember a time when I was growing up that CrossFit like started popping or trending. I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your guys' motivations towards working out and just developing like either fitness routines or like building your bodies to what would you call like your bodies are today? Pretty much, like what was the reason or your motivation?
I mean, my reason was heading off to the military. That, like I said a little bit ago, you know, that's whenever I really started getting focused into working out and more of the bodybuilding thing, because I wanted to go into the military being the biggest, baddest, strongest person I possibly could be. And that's exactly what that was my goal. And that's what I was achieving at the time. Then once I got into the military, things kind of changed. I ended up, things didn't really change, but I started seeing bodybuilding in a different way and started learning things. I ended up being stationed over in Japan, and there was actually a bodybuilding club on the Air Force base. And just randomly, this dude came up to me in the gym and was like, "Hey, like, we got this bodybuilding club, and you want to join it and come see what it's all about." And that's how things started really getting heated up for me in bodybuilding, was whenever this guy Joe Green, I don't even know where he's at these days, but I'll never forget his name, because he's the one that kind of took me under his wing for a while and joined this bodybuilding club on the base.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think my biggest motivation was just, just in my genetics in a way. My grandfather was, he was a Canadian pro football player, pro wrestler. It's almost kind of one of those things, the competitive nature is kind of gets in your bloodline. So I think I liked the challenge of it. I would see magazines, different things, even though my knowledge was limited, I was like, this is what I want to do. But, my guidance was limited, and I spent a lot of time jumping around, trying to figure it out on my own. And then it was, I think it was March of 2013. Donovan was actually competing in a bodybuilding show. I was like, you know what? Let me go check this out, show support, because I saw the dedication that went into it too. And, I think for me, I like the challenge of it. You're pushing your body to the limits, and you're kind of doing things that other people don't necessarily do or can't do or say they can't do. So I think I like for me, it's the challenge that goes with it. I'm one of those kind of people that likes being challenged, and then I've always, had that side of fitness. And when I put two and two together, I was like, you know what, there's something really, really cool about this when you put it all together. And I remember going to that show, and I remember Donovan was kind of like, we used to joke around all the time. He's like, man, I should get you on a diet, this and that. He's like, well, I'm going to get you on the Peply Shred program and all this. I'd get like, Peply Shred program. and man, I'll tell you what, I went to that show, and Branch Warren, who's a pro bodybuilder, Arnold Classic winner, he was there, and I got to meet him, and he was the biggest person I'd ever seen in person. And, it suddenly clicked. And I remember talking to Donovan, I'm like, you know what, this is what I want to do right here. And I remember to this day, it was April 1st, 2013. I'm like, had my first check-in photos. I was a $175 in my underwear. I'm like, well, we got to start somewhere, I guess. But I think ultimately,
I'll never forget that. Yeah. I think it was like the Monday after my show, like we go into work, and like, we're just, Jordan shows up with a box of chicken, or, a Tupperware thing of chicken and rice, and everyone thought we were just freaks.
They really thought we had lost it at that point.
Yeah. I like how you mentioned.
I'm sorry. No, my bad.
I was going to say, I liked how Jordan mentioned, the competitiveness to it and the discipline, because that's like, I was really competitive, playing sports, and then like I kind of got away from the whole, playing soccer all the time, because my soccer team was like powerhouse team. We were winning everything. Like we went there to win. And so after high school, no more soccer, and then got into the bodybuilding thing. And I like the competitiveness and the discipline that it took to do that. And like Jordan said, like a lot of people don't have the discipline to do this and whatnot. And I like the challenge that I would give myself to do it.
Mm-hmm. I agree, because one thing that you can say is that with competitive bodybuilding, you can combine the fact that you like to not just work out, but that you're competitive too. So you put those two things together, and it makes like a perfect world in which you can just work out, but competitively against other people.
Exactly. It's competitive,
right?
And almost against yourself in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're almost competing against yourself, trying to beat yourself last time, competitive in the act of the discipline that goes with it, with the diet, nutrition. I mean, I've currently been dieting for 21 weeks right now. I'm going on my third show this year. So yeah, I like the challenge. I mean, it's been a long half year at this point, but man, it's rewarding in the end. I think that's the other aspect that keeps me going is the feeling of the rewarding at the end of it makes it worth it.
I agree with you because it definitely is a challenge because it's not that easy as it looks to just be able to transform your bodies in the amount of time that you get from like point A to point C. It's
Right.
definitely not, and it's not just an internal challenge because you gotta make sure that your body can develop like not just the healthy habits or like all like the muscle memory or like whatever it is, but you also gotta be able to challenge against other people because I bet you guys have been to a competition and you walk in and see the other competitors and one time you'll be like, sheesh, that person's way bigger and way stronger than me. I gotta get more bulked or something. It drives you crazy and more motivation behind it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely never walked away from a show without being super motivated like the next day. Even though, you know, you might take third place or something like that, you're like, your motivation level's just through the roof because of everybody that you're around and seeing the other guys, and you're like, man, I'm going to get bigger, you know. I'm going to be better than next time.
I have a two-part question for you guys now. First, what is your go-to workout routine? If you have one. If you don't really have like your go-to or like your favorite, I guess you could say it.
For me, I would say like my favorite is probably back day. There's just something about back day that you can get you can get some heavy lifting in, and then you can get some good, some good heavy lifting and just like you get that pump just from back day, and like I'll know it whenever I hit a hard back day and I get cramps clear down through my biceps and forearms. Like by the time I get home, that's whenever I know I hit back like super hard that day, and it's just that's my favorite body part to work out.
Okay. How about you, Jordan?
I think for me, you know, my workout routines evolve constantly. Like right now I'm on a split, you know. We had some focus points that we needed to bring up and do. So, you know, I'm training 6 days a week, you know, training back and legs twice. And then there's other parts of my season, you know, where I'm only training 4 days a week, allowing for that recovery because you push so hard during your contest preps and things like that. So, and the biggest thing too, is, you know, allowing your muscles to be confused and always creating, you know, an environment where, you know, that will stimulate the muscles. So, you know, I may only do something for 6 weeks and then we'll change up my rep scheme. We'll go from, you know, heavier compound to more, you know, high volume training, things like that. So it really depends on, you know, what body part's lagging, you know, what phase of my off season or contest prep I'm in, you know, so that my routines really evolve. But, you know, I'm kind of on the page with Donovan too, you know. I think everyone loves a really, really good back workout. And then, you know, I'm all about training legs too. And I think that just goes back to my competitive nature as well. Because no one wants to endure the pain that really takes to build a set of legs and push yourself to that limit. And I think that's, you know, I enjoy training legs just because of that aspect. You know, I'm like, I want to do something training legs that, you know, these other guys aren't wanting to do. And it's like Donovan said, that feeling that you get when your back's just locked up is kind of like almost like the same thing with legs. Like you get home and you're like, crap, I don't think I can get from my vehicle to the front door right about now.
That's the one thing I will agree with you easily is that when it's leg day, walking from the gym to your home is the most annoying thing possible.
Yeah, that's when I discovered, you know, when I first started bodybuilding, I was up in Illinois, and that's when I discovered that ice and leg day did not get along very well. Luckily, I don't have to worry about that too much in Florida, but you get the combination of cold muscles, and then after your workout, you get stiff muscles trying to walk across ice. Man, I'll tell you what, that was some of the roughest walks in my car I'd ever had.
I can't imagine. This might be a little bit of a dumb question, but since you guys are bodybuilders, but do you have any specific like least favorite workout or routine or type of like not leg day or back day, arm day, like which a specific set of like shows that you'd be like, sheesh, I gotta do this today? Like what?
That'd probably be cardio.
Man, yeah, that would definitely be cardio and abs, like hands down. I mean, I never really consider any bad day in the gym, or any day in the gym's never a bad day in my opinion. But whenever I got to go get on that Stairmaster for 20 minutes, I'm just like, I really got to do this today. But somehow I end up getting it done.
Yeah, exactly. And abs, I'm like, by the time I get to my end of my workout and other stuff, because I train so hard, I'm like, man, I got to train these. Like, what am I supposed to do with abs? Like, there's nothing even fun about it. You do a couple crunches,
Right.
like, what, that's supposed to be good enough? Like, all right, that was cool.
I'll actually defer with you guys. I love doing cardio. I got like from my days in high school, I was with a little bit of track and field and soccer. So like cardio's in my nature. So I'm just good at endurance and everything of that. So that's the one a few times. Because I will admit, I complain a lot when I have to go to the gym, but when it's cardio day, I'm not complaining as much. I will say from my perspective.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely not the endurance guy. I was the guy who figured out how to get out of running in the military.
I think we were just so over cardioed in the military. That's why we just hate it so much now.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, that's a good point. Okay.
I got so
did not
sick
think
and
about
tired.
that at all.
I got so sick and tired of running and, you know, doing all that stuff. I don't even really care to do it anymore. I just want some low impact, you know, get the heart rate up, you know, keep my heart healthy. And then I'm good. I'm good with that. Just enough so I don't, you know, get fat.
I know that Jordan, for you, for example, you said that you started around like 2013-ish for like competitive bodybuilding, right?
Yeah.
And Donovan started before you, right?
Yeah, I did my first show in summer of 2008. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. 2008?
Yeah, summer of 2008.
Okay.
I was in Japan, and whenever I was stationed over there with the Air Force, and we held a show on base that was there's actually a league over there for and it's an armed forces league for Japan. So there's a ton of bases in Japan between the Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, and it was between all of the branches. And then we actually invited people, local people from around the base, to come compete as well.
Okay. So would you say that you've been around the competitive bodybuilding like business longer than Jordan? Or would you say like Jordan's been around? Jordan, would you say you've been around more since you're currently still in it?
At this point, looking at the time frames, I probably consider it pretty equal. But when I was kind of kicking things off, it's kind of, Donovan and I were getting out of the military, so a little bit of his competitive side, transitioning to civilian life and different things wasn't there. And that's when it was kind of kicking off. So, I've kind of been doing it, my first show was in 2015. I started, getting into bodybuilding in 2013. So, I'm kind of like 7 years strong. He was kind of like 2008 to 2015. So, okay. I mean, I'd say equally in the competitive world, we're pretty much, the exposure there.
Oh yeah, it does sound like you guys were pretty equal when you do like the math and the trajectory.
Yeah.
I get it.
Years wise, yeah, I think you got more shows under your belt now, though, right?
Yeah, I think I'm going 10th show now. Yeah,
I did 8 shows, so he's got a few more shows under his belt.
Okay. Yeah. What would you say is like the biggest difference for you guys from when you started respectively in like competitive bodybuilding until like when you finish or like are still like currently right now?
Oh, the biggest difference is being educated on what we're doing. Like whenever I first started like doing this, I I thought I knew stuff, but then like, 5 years later, up until my last show, everything that I did about bodybuilding did a complete 180 because I really didn't know what I was doing in the beginning. And by hiring coaches and having mentors and things like that, it just made me who I was up until my last show.
I think Donovan, he hit it right the nail on the head with that one. Because I was going to say the exact same thing. It's bodybuilding is one of those cool sports, where it evolves, but you also give back to the sport. So, as coaches and competitors evolve, a lot of coaches were once competitors and they learned a lot from whoever, and, they began coaching athletes, and those athletes learned and evolved from them. And, they learned how to do things a little differently. And, a lot of bodybuilding is trial and error too. So, there's no set program that works for one person individually. All of our body types are different, everything like that. So I think for me, it's like Don said, is just, the amount of knowledge you gain, the understanding of the different things that go with it. I mean, even to this day, I look back to when I started lifting, and technically, there's some weight that I'm lifting that's the same amount of pounds that I was lifting when I first started, but it's, how I'm lifting it's evolved. I've learned how to, contract the muscles versus, just swinging the weight. I'll never forget, Donovan pulled me aside in this cardio room. It was pitch black in there, and he just went almost like drill sergeant mode on me. He was like, listen, you're going to get stronger. You're going to get bigger. Leave the freaking weights alone and go down, you pick up the lighter ones. And, 5 years down the road, I'm lifting the same weight, but I've learned how to lift it differently, to stay injury free and, actually target the muscle versus, just lifting weights. So I think the knowledge is the biggest thing that goes with it as you evolve in the sport.
Yeah, I noticed like Jordan said, that contracting the weights and controlling the weights was like a game changer for me. I think once I put my ego to the side, and started actually listening to others around me and the coaches and stuff, I think I gained like 15 pounds of muscle like overnight just from learning how to actually bodybuild rather than just going in the gym and just trying to throw heavy weights around. You really you really learn to understand your body, right, Jordan, and like how your body works, because what I do isn't going to work for Jordan and what Jordan does isn't going to work for me. Some things might, but like, our metabolisms are different. So he might be able to get away with 20 minutes of cardio in the mornings where I might have to do 20 minutes in the morning fasted and 20 minutes after my workout. So everybody's body's different. And that's one thing, like Jordan said, it's trial and error, because then you learn your body and you learn what you need to do.
No, I definitely agree with you guys. That's an excellent point you guys made, because I can attest to the fact that everyone can easily work out, but not everyone knows how to correctly work out. So education and the knowledge, and that happened to me too. Like when I started trying to go to the gym and everything, I didn't know how to do half the stuff. I had to either Google it, YouTube, or learn or ask someone and be like, can you explain this to me? That's a very key part, I believe, not just in working out, but in bodybuilding. It's the fact that you need to educate yourself, train, and get more knowledge. So I like that you guys both agreed on that.
And Jordan and I, we didn't have YouTube and Instagram to see how all these guys work out or anything. We were, I didn't have a smartphone whenever I started bodybuilding. Like, it's so much easier now for people to learn how to work out properly. And it's still just, sometimes it baffles me that nobody puts this technology to use and actually learn how to work out properly whenever it's sitting in front of you for free, where, we had to pay people to learn how to work out. We had to hire coaches and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know, for example, my coach, cause he's been in it for a long time, at least 20 years now. Like Don was saying, we have so much readily available, especially through Instagram, so huge, and, different platforms, back in the day, and even still today, a lot of these guys, they have one coach that's, just their nutritional coach. And then they actually have a second coach who's actually just their they do their workout programs. You know, they design their lifting programs, and they have two separate coaches for each thing, because even as a top level athlete, you're still learning how to do stuff.
Now, Jordan, with that, how do the coaches like collaborate together, or like do they have to like give their diet plans to their lifting coaches to figure out how they should be, you know, working out to maximize their gains?
Usually as an athlete, like, hey, if an athlete, you know, says they're in contest prep, you know, and say for my example, my coach, he'll work with John Meadows. He'll have him training 4 or 5 days a week. You know, you take that because he works with Chris Aceto for his nutrition, you know, take that to Chris Aceto and be like, all right, we'll build our high days, our low days, you know, our food intake based on, you know, these lifting protocols. Because obviously, you know, if he's saying do this, you don't want to be slamming a ton of food on the day that you're supposed to be resting, so to say, and then have no food on your day. So there's definitely
that's a good point that
athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point that Jordan made, is like, we, you know, bodybuilders, like on their heavy lifting days, like leg and back, they'll eat, I don't know, 1,000 more calories sometimes. But like if it's like arm day where you're not going to burn as many calories or something like that, like your diet changes based on what you're lifting that day. At least mine does. What about yours, Jordan?
Yeah, it'll evolve on what I'm lifting, but also, you know, if it's a lagging body part too, you know, if we're trying to develop more of my back, you know, not only does back burn a lot more calories, but we'll push a lot more food on those days too, to really shuttle those nutrients into the muscles to help them recovery. Because at the end of the day, you know, the gym, you don't really need more than 45 minutes. You're just stimulating the muscle. All the growth happens outside of the gym. So, you know, if we know we're trying to develop my back more, you know, we'll hit it hard for 45 minutes, but we'll push more food and more nutrients on those days to allow for greater recovery. And that's where the growth will really happen then.
Yep.
Yeah, I would assume so. They would have to correlate, because if you give a person like a specific dieting plan for a specific day that wouldn't go well with the workout that they have planned for that day, I'm assuming that would be terrible for your body.
It definitely makes things harder, and that's probably the hardest part about dieting for a show is, you know, your food you're on less food in general. So then, you know, a lot more goes into the science of that for the recovery.
Could you guys explain a little bit of how like the competitive professional bodybuilding business or competition works for like not just me, for like the people that are listening and then don't really know that much about it? Like, not just like, my bad for this. Could you give like an example of how a normal competition would go down, or like the steps or the process of it?
I'll let you go with that one, Jordan.
So I think the biggest thing, you know, to me, there's a couple other leagues, but to me, there's only two true associations when it comes to bodybuilding. There's the NPC, which is the National Physique Committee, which is kind of your amateur level bodybuilding. Then there's the IFBB, which is your International Federation of Bodybuilding. And essentially, as an amateur athlete in the NPC, you know, you go to these shows, you spend, you know, 12 to 16 weeks dieting, depending on what your body composition's like. A lot of time you'll go to the show Friday night to weigh in and tan. You get your base coat of tanning. And then Saturday, what happens is, you know, you get up, you start eating, and they have your prejudging. Now, your prejudging is essentially, you know, where you get scored. You go through your set of mandatory, that they call them, and that's where you get judged. And then, you know, you kind of relax most of the day Saturday, and then you come back to the finals in the evening. Now, the finals, it's just an awards presentation, so to say. You know, all your judging, all your placing's been done in the morning. For some of the divisions, like especially bodybuilders, will do a posing routine to music. The girls will have like kind of like a short stint where they can kind of just showcase themselves, and then you kind of have your awards presentation. And that's kind of the general flow. Some of the bigger shows, you know, may last multiple days over Friday, Saturday, sometimes Thursday. But the biggest process, you know, if an amateur athlete's really wanting to go all the way and become pro and become part of the IFBB, you know, they do one of these shows, and then, you know, they'll take first or second will get you what's called nationally qualified. I hate that second place really does get you nationally qualified, because what happens, a lot of people just, they hear they're nationally qualified, so what they'll want to do is just jump into a national show. At the national show is where you have the opportunity, you know, to compete and win your pro card. So, you know, the IFBB isn't something you just automatically get into after doing for so many years. I mean, you could be an amateur athlete for 20 years and never get your pro card. So, for example, for me, you know, I did my first show in 2015, you know, kept competing. The judges say, hey, you need to come back a little bigger, make these adjustments. Came back in 2016 to a slightly bigger show. And they're like, all right, make these adjustments. And then, you know, I kind of took 3 years, 3 years off. And then I came back last year in 2019. And they're like, hey, you're almost there, but you really need to be a heavyweight for your height, because I'm 5'11". Okay. So, you know, we took another year off. And then I came back, and, you know, we were placed first and second in our shows. But they're like, hey, we could still do some minor adjustments here, because you can always be better. That's what one told me, is there's always room to be better. Mm-hmm. You know, so then, you know, I've gotten to know some of these show promoters and judges, and, you know, it depends how much you want to invest into it. So I had a judge take a look at me last weekend. And he was like, you know what, you're ready for a national show. So I'm actually in prep for the North Americans up in Pittsburgh on September 4th. And that's one of the few national shows where bodybuilders can turn pro. There's only really 3 shows in the U.S. that, at least for the bodybuilding division, there's other divisions in the sport for girls and guys. But there's only really 3 shows that bodybuilders can turn pro at. It's the North Americans in Pittsburgh, it's the USAs that are normally in Vegas, and then there's nationals down in Miami. So, you know, my game plan now is, you know, to see if we can, my first national show, see if we can take a top 5, because that's the feedback they gave me. I mean, it's a big investment, and you just have to see how far you want to take it.
I have one question, because like in some sports, like teams or individual sports, like you have a win and lose record, or you just have like a performance record or something, like stats and all that. Is there like any way to mark down like your competition wins or something, or like trophies or like rankings? Is there like a national ranking in bodybuilding?
Not really. You know, everything's posted online. One of the most common sites is NPC News Online, and you can pull up events that, you know, and you could Google my name for the NPC, and you'd see, you know, what events I've competed in, you know, how I've placed. But there's not like an actual ranking system. One of the things I've kind of heard with bodybuilding is you're only as good as your last show. Okay. So, you know, if in 2019 you competed and you got 5th place, even if you won a first place the year before, most people are going to remember that you got a 5th place that previous year. So even if you're placing and doing good, you know, there's no real ranking system. In the IFBB, there's a little bit of a point system, because they have what's called the Mr. Olympia, which is like the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. You know, it's the show that everyone wants to be in. And, you know, if you win a pro show, you know, you can automatically get qualified for it. It's not just a show that everyone can compete in. And then if you place 1st through 5th, you can accumulate points towards that. So the Mr. Olympia, it has, if you go on to their website, you know, it'll have a point standing to see who actually qualifies to compete in the Olympia.
That's pretty cool. There's a point system. So like, just because you didn't do as well as in your first competition is not a reason to quit. Right. You can still go to a second competition and rack up more points.
Exactly. So there's a lot of these guys, you know, they may not win a pro show, but they've done maybe 5 pro shows and got second and third place, you know, and acquired enough points to qualify for the Olympia.
Okay. And also, I heard you mention that there's like a history, or like they at least track like your past competition results, but there's not much of an acknowledgement. In reality, it's just like they'll remember you or like just treat you based off your last event.
Right. And, you know, they'll do that. But to be honest, you know, the judges and show promoters are phenomenally good with faces. You know, the more you're out there, the more you're competing, the more they do remember you. But yeah, as far as a points tracking system, other than, you know, qualifying for the Olympia, there's not much to it.
What would you say is both of y'all guys' favorite part about the whole competitive bodybuilding aspect, or like the process that you guys went through?
The discipline, I think, and watching your body change. The discipline really gets me. It makes me, you know, I like discipline, and I like having structure in my life. And with bodybuilding, it keeps your life structured because you need to be up by 4:30. You need to have your cardio in. If you have cardio that day, you know, you need to eat breakfast at a certain time, eat meal 2 at a certain time, you know, and we're eating 6 meals a day. And like Jordan can contest to, you miss 1 meal a day, that's 400 or 500 calories. Like that could ruin the whole day, you know, and everything in the plan leading up to your show. So there's definitely no room for error in bodybuilding. And that's why I'm going to say this very confidently that it's probably it is the most disciplined sport on earth. You know, bodybuilders can't go out and party, you know, on Wednesday night like a football player can, and then show up, you know, on Sunday to the game and be all right. Like a bodybuilder can't afford to do that. They can't afford to be putting extra sugars and calories and unneeded carbs into their body. So the discipline is what I really enjoyed about it, and pushing my body to the max with that discipline. It's just something that like Jordan, you know, said before, you know, not many people do it, and not many people can hang in there to do it. And I mean, I know in my lifetime so far, I've had many of guys come up to me, you know, while I'm in like competition prep, or even, you know, after that stuff, it's like, oh, I want to do bodybuilding. And I'm like, you know, I just shake my head like, there's been one person in my entire life that came up to me and said, I want to do bodybuilding, and stuck with it. And that's Jordan, literally. That's the only person. I've had 100 people ask me that in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I'm right there with Donovan, you know, the discipline to it, you know. One of the things I like about bodybuilding too, and the competitive nature when you really get into it, is like he was mentioning, is the structure. But, you know, it gives you something to work towards. You know, I think, like you said, you got to get out of bed. You got to do this. You know, to me, it's one of those things, you know, you always hear all those motivational speakers like, you know, complete one task for the day and it may lead to 1,000 tasks accomplished for the day. You know what I mean? So bodybuilding really helps enhance that. You know, you have to get up, you have to do your cardio, you have to do your meal. Next thing you know, you're at your job, or you're cleaning your house, or, you know, all these other things start to fall in place. So for me, you know, the discipline of it is awesome, because, you know, it actually applies to like a whole other areas of life that you actually end up improving in on top of it all.
No, I bet, because if with a sport like bodybuilding that is so much discipline, so much having to follow your routine and stick to it like through thick and thin, like it definitely translates to your daily like normal life or whatever you do else besides bodybuilding. I would agree with that. That's a good thing that comes out from bodybuilding. It helps you learn how to actually learn yourself how to structure yourself perfectly, organize, or like decision making, or anything that you can come up with.
Right, and I'm sure
Donovan definitely
attest to this too, because I mean, even though he's not necessarily in the competitive nature anymore, but, you know, it's that discipline, that getting up, that doing things. Like he told me the other day, he's like, you know what, let's do the podcast at this time, because, you know, I got to be in bed at this time, because, you know, I'm still up at this time. So, you know, even if you're not a competitor anymore, just that what that character builds in someone too, you know, when you really take it seriously and develop yourself as a person with bodybuilding, can really translate into the rest of your life and, you know, the success you have in other areas as well.
And bodybuilding makes you become like a really good planner, because you need to plan your day out. You need to plan everything out. Because what's the famous saying? Fail to plan plan to fail to plan. So if you don't plan your day, you're going to fail, is what it is, essentially. Yeah. So even though, like Jordan said, I'm not doing competitive anymore, my day, my family, my wife, everybody will tell you I'm the most planning person anybody knows, because I need to know everything. Like I need to have, you know, the structure for it. Yeah.
How much would you say nutrition and like good health habits overall play like a part into your training? Because I know you guys keep mentioning the dieting aspect, so I know it's a big factor. But like, if you had to like rank it or like specify like how important it is for you guys, is like, would you say it's like on the top, in the middle, or like, because it's definitely not in like down, and like it's.
You know, I'll put it plain and simple, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 20.
Yeah, I had a feeling.
Yeah, because you eat you know, even if you eat 8 ounces of meat, okay, protein, it might not be the right protein. Like maybe you shouldn't have had red meat. It should have been fish, or it shouldn't have been chicken. It should have been red meat. Like that's how particular it needs to be whenever it comes down to your diet and your nutrition habits. And I learned that by trial and error. How we were talking before, whenever I was in competition prep, I did a lot of chicken, and then the one show for that prep, I changed over and I did a ton of shrimp and whitefish. And my body composition just did a complete 180. And I was, you know, my body fat probably dropped down 2% more than what it did whenever I was on like a chicken diet. And it goes clear down into, you know, what type of protein you're eating at what time of day. So that's how in detail it needs to be.
Okay. Yeah, I had a feeling that was how it should be. I just thought about asking because I didn't know if it would be like a different type of answer depending on the person, but I've always viewed it as like one of the most important things, because you just cannot simply go to the gym and work out. You also got to eat healthy in that way, so your body balances from both sides of like the story, I guess you could call it.
Right. And that touches on what Donovan said. You know, this is probably one of the hardest sport, or, you know, I consider it the hardest sport there is, because, you know, it's 24/7, you know, all the way down to, you know, how many hours of sleep you're getting a night, you know, and, you know, and your body learns the patterns too. You know, for me, I had a phenomenal progression season just because I still ate all my meals at the same time of day that I ate during my contest prep. You know, so my body learned how to adapt to that. So then going into another contest prep, you know, the mental health of it and all the other aspects of it were already there, and I didn't have that stress because I was in such a routine and such a pattern. So it's definitely, you know, it plays such a huge role. And like Domin's saying, I mean, the nutrition, like right now, we're just trying to get as lean as possible. So, you know, my fats are low. We're doing a lot of fish, you know, a lot of chicken, but we also know my metabolism's really, really high. So, you know, we found the value in where fats play in, you know, especially on show day and the day before the show. You know, we learned that I can only eat like red meat and salmon just because of the fat content, because it slows my metabolism down. So I'm not going through as much food and able to maintain weight and things like that.
So we're going to go now to the last two questions of the episode. The first of the last two questions is going to be, what is the one thing you want the people listening to know about competitive bodybuilding that they might not know? It's something that like just flies by your head that like you never think about, like for a normal person. What's the one thing you want to like inform them of?
It doesn't happen overnight. That's for sure. Like Jordan said, he took 3 years off in between shows. I mean, and he was saying before, there's some guys out there 20 years chasing their dream down of becoming a professional bodybuilder. And a lot of, and that's what I try to tell people, whenever we talk about bodybuilding and stuff, is like, hey, this doesn't happen overnight. These guys just didn't walk into the gym and pick up a weight. Next thing you know, they're 250 pounds of pure muscle. This is 10, 15 years of dedication to be and look like the way they are. And there's no such thing as off season. There's no breaks. There's nothing. It's very intense.
Yeah. He made a good point with that. And I think the biggest thing too, that, people take for granted, and I made a post about this on my Instagram just recently too, is, people get so caught up on what they're going to eat after the show, and all those different things. I'm like, well, is the reward in the food or is it in what you get out of the show? And then, I've spoke so many times that I think people just take for granted or didn't even think about that. They use the term off season, which I honestly hate. I go more with progression season, because people don't realize how much actually goes into those 6 months to a year to 2 years that you may not actually be competing or getting ready for a show. Because, people
like what you did a year ago matters in 3 weeks whenever Jordan competes. What he did a year ago. That's what's crazy about bodybuilding.
So the biggest thing is, I think that people don't understand is the level of consistency. They understand that like you have to be consistent and disciplined during that 16-week period of prepping for show. But I don't think a lot of people understand those other 40 weeks of the year. You still need that level of consistency. Now, you can have a cheat meal here and there and do your thing, enjoy time with family. It's all about having balance. But I think a lot of people don't realize the aspect of when bodybuilders really do this competitively, that it's 365 days a year, not 16 weeks out of the year.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, consistency is key with this, because the one, like you guys have taught me today on the episode, the one day you miss like this part of your diet, or the one day that you didn't do the specific exercise, and it can all go down for you, because your body, you got to keep going, your body rolling with the rhythm that you're going throughout the 16 weeks of prep. And not just the 16 weeks of prep, like you mentioned, Jordan, before that, the full year, the 365 days a year. Okay. The last question is not going to be a bodybuilding question, but besides the sport of bodybuilding, do you guys have any other sports that you enjoy to either watch or play?
Well, for me, obviously I used to play soccer. Don't really do that anymore. Just kind of getting too old, and haven't played it in a while. But for a sport that I like to enjoy watching, that would definitely be hockey. I like hockey because hockey's intense. Hockey's fast. They're hitting each other hard, and I really enjoy hockey. And those guys are some true athletes, and it takes a real man to play some hockey. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, Donovan kind of touched on it with how hockey is, with, how aggressive it is. I've always enjoyed it, but, I'm not a huge pro football player.
Okay.
Like, I don't watch a lot of pro football, but I love college football, and I think it's kind of like how I am with bodybuilding. They're there to play, they're there to compete, they're striving for that next level. And I think it's, I enjoy watching those guys. Like, they put a lot of heart into what they do when they get out on that field, because, they're young and they're just trying to make it to where they want to go. So games are intense, and you get 20 penalties in a game just because these guys are playing their hearts out.
Now, I will touch on first with Donovan, that yeah, I love hockey just because of the fast pace and the fact that like ignore the fact that the puck is so small. Like these people have to learn how to actually skate on ice first off to play the sport. That's just another skill and ability that not everyone on this planet has. That's impressive in itself.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're going so fast back and forth, pushing each other, shoving each other, trying to battle for possession and everything, that's impressive, man. I love hockey.
Oh, it is. I mean, I tell you what, I've been to some hockey games, and there's nothing more intense than, you know, being right down on the by the glass right there and watching two guys come at 20 miles an hour and slam into each other, and then that puck come bounce off where it feels like it's about to hit you in the face, but bounce off the plexiglass. I'm like, that'll wake you up real quick. Like football players hit each other hard, but listen, there ain't
nothing like in hockey.
Those guys come into a corner.
Then I'll touch on you, Jordan, because I prefer college football 10 times over the NFL, me personally. The few times I actually watch football, because it's not my favorite sport, but college football, those kids actually be playing their hearts out. It's not like in the NFL, they get paid for it, so they're like more nonchalantly, I guess you could explain it.
Exactly. They're like, I don't really want to get injured today, so but I still got my paycheck.
Yeah, they're already making their millions. They don't have to worry about it.
I'm a huge Clemson fan in college football. I would say that's for me, for example. Do you guys have any specific like athletes or teams that you guys would call yourselves a fan of?
I'd probably, you know, I'm Florida bred down here at this point, so you know, I ride with the Gators down here.
Okay.
And I'm Pittsburgh bred, so I'm not too big in the college stuff, but like the Penguins, I mean, like it's just where I'm like where I'm from, the Penguins, like if you don't watch the Penguins, like there's something wrong with you. Like people think you're just mentally messed up in the head because they're that hardcore Penguins fans. And I don't know if this is like before, you know, Dan, but Jaromir Jagr, he was like probably hands down like my favorite Penguins player because the dude he played with his heart every game. He's retired now. I don't know, 10 years. I don't even know when he retired, but yeah, he was definitely like my favorite player from back in the day. He played with Mario Lemieux and those two guys are just powerhouses.
Yeah, I've heard the names. I've seen a couple highlights because I was doing research myself, like getting into hockey. Those guys look like studs. I will say that. And you guys, the Pittsburgh Penguins, are a very storied franchise. Me as a New York Rangers fan, I hate playing you guys every time because I know we're going to have a tough matchup today. It's not going to be easy.
No, those fans, they get rowdy and they're loud. And, I mean, that's what it's all about, I guess, though. You know, you gotta get the teams hyped up, you know. Yeah.
I mean, I don't follow a lot of hockey, but, you know, that's one team that, you know, you hear them, you know about them.
Exactly. That's the one thing I could say for like people that aren't like avid sports fans. You hear the Pittsburgh Penguins, and you're gonna be like, "Yes, I've heard that team for some reason," and they're that good. Historically, they've been that good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, guys, this is the end of the episode. Before we conclude, you guys have any final thoughts or things you guys want to say?
No, I appreciate you having us on here today. It's really great talking to people, you know, about bodybuilding. Even though I'm not doing competitively anymore, I'm still hitting the gym 4 or 5. If I'm bored 6 days a week, sometimes, I mean, it's what was once competitive for me now has become a hobby of mine. You know, I always think about maybe getting back into it one day. One day I might just randomly, you know, get back into it again. I definitely train, you know, train hard still, train hard, train smart, back to the diet. Like my diet's not 100% all the time, but I'm not being competitive. So I understand on that part, but I really enjoyed, talking about this today. And it's something that I like to give back. Like Jordan was saying earlier, like, you know, I love talking about bodybuilding to people and educating them on what I know and passing info along. And I don't even know 10% of it you know, cause it's just continually evolving, but I always like talking to people about it and whatnot.
Yeah, I just want to say, I appreciate, having us on here, and, bodybuilding is something I'm like beyond passionate about. So, anytime anyone wants to talk about it, I get excited, and, it's, for me, it's the excitement, being able to give back. But, part of the reason why I do it is because I love it. And, I also want to be able to inspire people, whether they want to bodybuild or just go after something in life in general, because, I think that's one of the biggest things that a lot of people look up to bodybuilders as, is just their dedication towards something. And, I've had so many people tell me, I wish I could do that, or I wish I could do this. I'm like, you just got to go for it, man. It's just a little hard work. You can go a long way. I always tell people, I'm like,
Yeah,
you
you
don't have
gotta.
to be a builder, but if you have something you want to go after, you just go for it, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you set the goal and you make it happen to that goal. And that's like how bodybuilding is. You set that goal that you're going to compete on that day, and you create a plan on how you're going to get to that day and be the best that you can be. And that's how, like, I operate with life now. Like, I set a goal. Like, when I got out of the military, my goal was to complete my bachelor's degree by a certain, time frame. And I did that. And then after that, it was get a job. And then I got a job. And then it was, I'm going to complete my master's degree now within the next year. And I applied for a program and did that. So it's all about setting goals. And that's how bodybuilding is. You set a goal and you go out there and you achieve that goal, and you don't let anything get in the way of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I agree with you guys in the fact that, as you said, Donovan, bodybuilding has helped you be able to apply that to real life and just be able to, like, okay, I'll do this today, set the goal, like do a schedule, whatever, organize it and everything. And I love the fact that you guys can have I'm sorry for this. I love the fact that you guys have been able to translate what you guys put into the work of your bodybuilding careers right into your real life, like ordinary, like stuff that you guys do. That's really cool that you're able to do that from the sport that you participated in. And I wanted to say thank you so much. I really appreciate both of you guys taking the time of the day to be on the episode. I always wanted to talk about bodybuilding, and this was the perfect opportunity to do it. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad we
You're
were
welcome.
Mm-hmm. For the people listening, either on YouTube or SoundCloud, thank you for watching or listening. Peace out, people.